So the recording is going now, so you are being recorded. All right. I don't remember either of you that are sitting in here live having attended these before, so let me just give a brief preview for you of how Collaborate works. Um, it's got a thing on raising hands, but I don't use that, so you don't have to pay any attention to that one. But they got an icon down at the bottom for raising your hand. Um, there is the icons also to use the microphone and the camera if you want to, um, but there's no requirement on that. Um, I use my camera and microphone obviously in here. Um, and then the primary place that students normally put um, messages to me and to the class is in the chat. And down there on the right side of the screen, there's a purple double arrow. If you click that, that then opens up the ability for you to do several different things. And yours looks a little different than mine, so I may tell you something that's not there. The biggest thing there for you is that there is a chat window. It's the little circle with the little drawing off the side, like in comics in the newspaper and stuff, where they put the words somebody speaking in. If you click on that, you will go in the chat. Um, Either you've got to speak to me in this session, and I just realized I don't have my speakers turned on, so if any of you have been speaking, I couldn't hear you. But either going into there or using the microphone. But you can type in there a message to me or to the whole group, because you can actually indicate who it goes to, I believe. I don't see that in this one. I'm using several different systems between classes I'm taking and these that I'm teaching. And I'm actually have taught with some other systems. So, and this crazy thing on the bottom for mine. So there's where you can type in chat messages. For you to get credit for having attended this, you do have to participate. So you do have to either have asked me stuff live with a microphone or have typed things in the chat message. And that's more than just a good morning, because y'all will find if others get on that have been in these before with me, that quite often they put a good morning, hello, or something in there, but that doesn't count as participating. You need to put something else in there. So make sure you do put something in the chat session, in the chat messages box before the time is out. I try to keep these to an hour, and that's actually all the time I have scheduled for this one, because I have another session at 11. It's going to drive me crazy with this new little piece down here that's trying to tell me how much engagement I've got, and it keeps flashing every few minutes. There, I took it away. Do be on that, because as long as you listen to the live and participate, because this is an engagement activity, which the discussions are also. But if you do participate and listen to the live one, not the recordings, then you don't have to do the discussion for that week. So those of you listening to it live now, as long as y'all post something there in the chat before we finish up, that you won't have to do the week 2 discussion. Discussions are normally posted on Monday, start on Monday morning, and are normally due the next Monday. The initial post is due on Friday, and then the 2 replies are due by the next Monday. However, this week is an exception because Monday is a holiday, so school policy says things should not be due in classes on non-school days. That's one of the reasons I have a Monday. That's the main reason I have a Monday due date for everything. Sunday's not a school day. And I agree with that on it, because if you're working on it there on the last day and you have a problem, you should be able to contact your instructor. And if it's a non-school day and most classes, you're not going to get a hold of the instructor at that point. But because Monday is a holiday, stuff that would be due on Monday this week will be due on Tuesday. We're going to run into that 2 more times this semester, and this is only an 8-week course. So it's about half the time, because June the 20th is Juneteenth, and that's a state holiday also, and school will be closed. And then July the 4th is Independence Day, and that's a national holiday, and school will be closed that day too. So those 2 weeks we will have Tuesday deadlines instead of Monday. And I think the last week, which is the following week, I don't remember exactly which date stuff is due then, because the last day I don't remember what it is right off. I think I have it marked on the calendar. No, I don't. But because y'all's last day, I really think is the 12th, and that the exams finish on the 13th. But don't hold me on those 2 dates. All right. And if you have any questions or comments as I'm going over stuff, just pop in with your chat on it, and I will see it and I'll respond to it appropriately. That if it's something right then, or if it's something that's going to fit a little bit in a few minutes, that I may delay on it, but I will get everything answered. All right. That's that part. You are in CIST 1122, and these sessions should be interactive. But 1122 is the course you're in. We're using the test out materials for their course called PC Pro. This is corresponding to the first A+ exam. There's 2 exams that you're required to pass the A+ exam. Let me go into those briefly right here. Core 1 is the hardware-oriented one, which is what 1122 aims towards. And then Core 2 is the software-oriented one, which matches basically to 1135. As it is, when you take this course and you take 1135, and some people may have already taken 1135, this may be their first course of the 2, and I know we've got at least 1 student in our class that's taking both this semester, and there's nothing wrong with that. You use the same materials. You only have to buy 1 code from Test Out for one of the 2 classes, and it's good for 18 months. And as long as you take the other class to finish up within the 18-month period, you don't have to buy a second code. So the only thing confuses on students is, well, the things that confuse on students on this is, 1, you've got to pay attention in this class about what is being assigned. All chapters, all activities within the chapters are not assigned in this course, because half of it goes in the other course. So be careful on that, and reading what's assigned. So make sure you look at those assignment sheets. Now, when you take the second course, or if this is your second course, so whatever, you will discover that everything you did in the first course still shows out there in the class, and then you're filling in the rest of all the blank areas in the grade book. So just be aware of that. In both classes, chapter 1 is assigned. So as far as I'm concerned, if you've already taken the 1135, and so you've gone through that those grades are already all out there. There's no reason for students to redo those again, because they're already there. Throughout the rest of the course, there should not be duplication if they set it up correctly, and that's done by some other faculty here at the college. I didn't do that. I didn't do the assignment sheets. I have done a little bit of mod to the course, but not much. The calendar, I've got it good through next week, I believe, at this point now, and I'm going to try to work on that later today. but we'll see. Yesterday I was intending to work on it, but the school had mandatory training that I had to do on sex equity, Title IX, and diversity, and I think that was and sexual harassment. So there was 2 courses I had to take that took at least 2.5 hours to go through doing, and then I was answering email through the day also from some students, and had to deal with a few other things. So my intention today and every week is on Tuesdays, I try to grade the discussions from the previous week that were due the night before. Then the assignments, sometimes I'll get started on them on Tuesday, but not very often because I'm doing 3 live collaborate sessions on Tuesday, so there's half the day gone. So usually I will grade on Wednesday. Now in your class, everything self-grades as you go along. So I'll be moving after the due date grades from test out to Blackboard, but that is a manual process. If you see where I've entered a grade wrong when I transfer it from test out to Blackboard, just email me and tell me and I'll double check it. But it's not an automatic process because of how we're using part of this class in one class and part in the other class. It wants to transfer every grade across if it's allowed to transfer grades. So we can't do that in this class. Those of you that have taken 1001, you may have used test out in there, and there is 1 or 2 other courses we'll use test out also. In that class, the grades would automatically transfer. And I didn't put the phone on vibrate, but in any event, I try to keep an eye on it because I do get important messages throughout the day. So I will put it on vibrate so that it won't disturb us as bad. All right, any questions on that whole process? So you need to have been, it should have been into test out by now. And the right, the no-show assignment, the students that have not done that yet have been notified, and I have to turn in no-shows today. What that means is if I don't have a no-show assignment from those students, they will be dropped from the class. And when you're dropped as a no-show, all record of it disappears from the school system. So there is no cost for that. And there's not a bad grade or something entered on the other. Syllabus, all of you've gotten read. Is there any questions on the syllabus? And again, make sure y'all do use the chat window because that's where y'all can communicate with me, and you are required to communicate during the class. So remember, it is that down on the right side, at the bottom of the right side of the screen, there's a purple little tab that's got a double arrow on it. Click on it and you will see the chat window, and you can, it's actually got a little box that says say something, and that's where you type whatever you're going to type to me in. So that I know both of you know how to do that at this point, tell me something in there. If you can do a hello or understand or something, type something in there and hit send. Okay. Joshua? But do type some stuff in there as we go along, because that one's not going to count. So that gets, y'all both know how to do it now. And that was what I was wanting there. But I do want y'all to put something else in there during the session. But we will limit to just under an hour. Now, the 2 chapters that you're working on last week and this week, so I gave you 2 weeks to work on the first 2 chapters. That way, chapter 1 basically takes you through and introduces you to test out and how test out works. You'll see it called lab sim by some people also. I use the term test out all the time on it. I don't use the word term lab sim. That doesn't mean in the course that it doesn't say stuff about lab sim in Blackboard, because I did not set that stuff up initially. I have changed some stuff. The announcements are all my own, and so I've added on those. But it goes through and shows you how to use test out and how the simulations work also. And in this class, there's a lot of simulations. So instead of y'all working on the actual equipment, you're working on simulations of how the equipment works. And test out has pretty good simulations, but it's not quite the same as working on the real equipment, but it's pretty close. And that this course is being offered to you online. I really like teaching this course more, preferably as a in-person class with test out as the materials we're using along with it, where students get their hands in the machines and literally get them dirty at times. If you're going to work on computers and repair them, you will find some computers that are really, really bad dirty. I remember one place I went to, I got called and went to work on their computer. And this is back in the 80s. And they said the machine was running slow. And I said, okay. So I went to open it up, and literally there was dust that thick in that computer. The president of the little company that I had gone to for that, she was embarrassed about it. But if you don't open them up, you don't know what all's building up inside of them. She had been keeping the vents all cleaned, vacuuming those out regularly, or air blowing on them, I think, one of the two. But inside, it had all of that dust in there. So you're going to work on, mainly it's going to take you through simulations on desktop PCs. But I think you also, I don't remember exactly, I think they may have a simulation for you to do some work inside a Mac. And I know there is a chapter on laptops, and you should be doing simulation on the laptops. And that's in this course that you're dealing with what's inside the machines. And then you'll be looking at other stuff, and you'll be plugging machines together on it. So you will, when you go out to work on machines, you're going to find some are awfully dirty, and you're going to get your hands. So this course is designed in a hands-on, which most of our courses are designed to be of a hands-on in some way. This one, and if you're working on the real machines versus the simulations, in the real machines, as you pull cards out and everything and put them in, you are going to cut yourself at times because there's all kinds of sharp edges on them and little sharp wires sticking up. And as I tell students when I'm teaching it in class, if you don't draw blood occasionally, putting stuff in or taking stuff out of a machine, then you're not really doing it, because that will happen. But that's just drops of blood, so it's not any big problem. But you are going to scratch yourself at times with them, or stab yourself with the little pins to them into your fingers as you go to put stuff in and out. That's just the way it works. So that's what you'll be doing in here. So they're taking you through in chapter 1, just an introduction on that and giving you just a little overview on it. Now, I will tell you this also as you do the simulations, and as they have you going through doing stuff, if you goof something up, generally the way the simulations work is that if you go and do something incorrectly, you have to go back and start all over again. In the real world, you just make a change of it to where it's supposed to be or correctly plugged into a spot, and you keep on going, but you didn't have to start all over again. But in the simulations, you're going to find that you're going to have to start all over again often when you do something wrong, that it does not have the ability to change something to doing differently, like plugging a wire into the wrong place. It doesn't have the ability for you to get that correct then without going back and starting all over. So just be aware of that one. That can be a frustration at times to students. Chapter 2 goes through and just gives you a little bit of an overview on PC technicians, their responsibilities. So, and they teach you a few terms in here, so you definitely need to be aware of those. They talk about ESD, which is electrical static discharge. And when you're working on the stuff inside the machines, it's important to be aware of that. So if you were working on actual machines, you need to ground yourself in some way before you stick your hand inside those machines, because you do have static electricity will build up on you, and static electricity runs some high voltages out of you when you touch something. You see it sometimes when you see a spark and feel the shock of touching a metal handle like the door handle, walking out of a room that has low humidity and had carpet. So there's a couple of ways to deal on that. They will talk about wristbands that you can use, where you use a wrist strap, not band, and that you put a strap on you and you click it to the case of the machine, and so you ground it yourself out to the case, not to the parts inside of it. And if you start to get more static charge on you, it just discharges automatically, continuously. You can put it to the case, the metal case, that clip, or you can clip that to the metal part of the power supply. Second thing is, make sure you do always disconnect the machines before you start fooling around in them from the wall, so that you don't have power in there. But again, additionally with ESD, another way that quite often is used is that people will ground themselves on the power supply or the case and then reach in there. And all that takes is touching the case or touching the power supply, and it grounds you out. It pulls the static charge off of you, and then you can touch. But if you are standing on carpet or something and move your feet around, you may build static charge back up, and in which case you could static charge on it. Another one is there are mats you can put the equipment on and work off of that are anti-static mats. And what they've got is they've got little wires running through them, and then a clip with the wire coming off that you attach to some grounding spot, and take care of that. So be aware of that on it. They talk about environmental concerns, and those things can be such things as battery throwing away, getting rid of the equipment. You don't want to send it to landfills. You want it to be recycled, because when it goes in a landfill, it is a problem there. Let me click back here. You don't need any equipment or supplies for this class. Everything's done in test out. So there's no tools or equipment you need for this class. You're doing everything using the simulations. So just be aware of those. The other one on the ESD to be aware of is, if you ever work with the old monitors, the big ones, the CRT monitors, not the LED LCDs that we're using predominantly now, but some people still do have the big CRT ones. If you open the case up to that CRT monitor, even with the power disconnected to it, it has a capacitor in there that holds a large voltage to it, even with no electricity coming on, and will hold it for a long time. If you touch that capacitor, you will discharge it, and you will send, I think it's 20,000 volts through you. So you will get a big shock from it, and you can damage some other equipment on it. Generally, they tell you do not work inside of CRT monitors. But if you do, be very careful that you don't touch the wrong spot, because you can run a high voltage through you on it, because it does hold it. So that's one that they probably warn you on right there too. Second thing, they talk about professionalism, and that's how you should interact with your customers, and such. And so be aware of that. And look professional when you go to work on these. That doesn't mean tie. That doesn't mean a button-down shirt always. It could be a polo shirt. The same place I told you about just a moment ago about all that dirt on the computer was actually a steel fabrication plant. So there was a lot of oiliness sort of in the air, even into the office. They hired me after that to work for them for the next 20 years, I think, as a consultant to them to come in and take care of their stuff when they have problems. Um, I always dressed like I dressed for class usually when I went there. That I had a button-down shirt on or a polo shirt and khakis as a normal rule. And their comment to me was, "You can come in shorts and t-shirt, like that's fine with us." And they had people wandering in and out and working in the shop that were dressed that way, and they were going, "You don't need to put on something a little bit nicer, wear jeans." They said that we're fine with that, which I did do some, and I actually would go in there late at night when I was the only one in the building, because they would call me during the day while I was working my full-time job and tell me they had a problem, and I had a key, still have a key to their front door and the code to the alarm, which I probably still have. And I would go in and fix whatever it was and then exit out. And there was nobody else around. I'd go in sometimes on Saturday and Sunday, and sometimes they'd come in and work with me also on doing stuff. Because like when we cabled them and put them onto the networked them and then connected them to the internet, um, running wire through the ceiling was a very dirty and dusty job. And the vice president, the daughter of the owner, she was concerned about me being up on a ladder by myself in there, because that's what's the problem with this eye is. The ladder fell out of under me putting up Christmas lights back in 2002. My eye is fine, but the eyelid doesn't work correctly. So she wanted somebody else in there with me when I was going up and down the ladder, and she was helping me too. So got it done quicker. But usually, so they talk about your tools. Be aware there is some really good toolkits for cheap prices out there that you can buy if you are going to work on them, but you do not need any tools for this class. So you don't need to buy a toolkit or anything for this class. So they do talk about what tools you really need, but you don't need that. And then you talk about maintenance on your PCs. And setting up your UPS, and it's really useful to have UPSs on your machines. So when the power goes out or there's surges or brown or blackouts, that your machine keeps right on working. My computer sitting here at home, and we're coming from my home office, is running off of a UPS. Actually, I'm running on a laptop, so it's got a battery in it too, but I got to replace that battery because I've discovered the battery's dead. So do be aware of those and that. So that's where they talk about. And then they talk a little bit about troubleshooting and the process to go through on that. When we get started in chapter 3, which will start Monday. Yes, Monday's a holiday, but I've changed due dates to Tuesday, but I consider the start of the next week as being Monday. So my classes always are Monday starting. So, and y'all can work ahead in this class. There's nothing that stops you on that. There is penalties for being late. Okay, I think I heard a beep back here. It depends on what all you want that UPS to do and how big of one you want, how long you want it to run. You can get decent UPSs. The one I'm running on right now here, I think cost me $70. But you can get them. I think I've seen them recently for as low as about $50 to $70, but it depends on the size of the battery in it on a UPS. That's more than a surge protector. It does surge protecting for you also. Now, while we throw you this on UPSs also, if you have a laser printer, you do not, when you get your UPS, you'll discover there is one outlet on there usually that is labeled as that it is not battery protected, which means when the power goes out, that outlet goes dead. That is the outlet you want to plug your laser printer into. Laser printers will continuously be warming themselves up, and they pull a bunch of power when they do that. If you have that laser printer plugged into a battery backed up outlet on your UPS, it will kill your battery real fast. Um, so do be aware of that on that part. Um, but you can spend hundreds of dollars on a UPS also. But if you only want like 15 minutes of backup power to it, you can get those for about 100 or so. I think this UPS gives me 15 minutes of power before it shuts down, or thereabouts. It depends on how much stuff is pulling on it. Um, so, but it will give biggest thing on the UPS is it's giving you time to do an orderly shutdown of your computer. If it's just a short um, period that the power went out for, that it keeps your machine keeps right on going, and that it didn't, the blink didn't hurt it and knock the computer off. Without the UPS there, your computer would have shut down right then, and then you'd had to start back all over. Micro Center in Atlanta, actually in Marietta, I find is a really good place that you can get the stuff from. It's down there at Delk Road and Powers Ferry. It's about a mile off of I-75 if you go down to Delk Road, going down from here on the northern end, and I'm up in Lafayette. Going down South 75 and get off on Delk Road and make a left, and it's about a mile down the road. You'll get to the corner with Powers Ferry, make a right turn, and you finish the shopping center you were passing on the left, and it's in the next little shopping center. And there's a big sign out in front of them. They have anything and everything just about you want about computers, and at real good prices. It is a chain of stores, not a big chain. They're out of Ohio. They have 2 stores in Atlanta. They have one over on the northeast side of Atlanta off of I-85 also. They have one up outside of Washington, D.C., which is real close to where I grew up, and I've shopped all 3 of those locations. They have several in Ohio and a few others. And yes, that's exactly right, and that's what I tell some people when I'm going to go by there, because I drive by there every week. That if I'm going to go to there, that quite often I'll tell them I'm going to the toy store. So that it's been around since about 1984, 85. I can't remember when it's exactly which year it opened, but I have been shopping there since right about the opening. Somebody told me recently in the store, when that store opened, they have one employee, the last I knew, that's been working there ever since it opened. Because they looked at my record and went, "You've shopped here a long time." And I said, "Yeah, since the mid 80s. I said, "Somewhere 84, 85. They said, "Well, then you've been shopping here since basically we opened up." So it's been there. It's in an old Piggly Wiggly grocery store, and they keep remodeling and they keep modernizing themselves. So it's a different store today than it was when I originally started shopping in it. But it's a really good store with really good prices. So if you want to go get your hands on the stuff when you're buying it, it's a good place to go. And that you get good prices on it too. I have liked that. So Josh, I'm glad you know about it. Okay, any other questions for me? So that's basically chapters 1 and 2, and each week that's what we're going to do in here. I'm going to go over any general stuff that might apply somewhat school-wide. For instance, we've got the Summer Fest, or whatever they want to call it, days coming up starting June 6th, I think, and I'll mention that more next week when we have our session next week. The other, and I'll also put it in announcements. I did also notice when I put that announcement in about that engineer for a day, or something like that, that Cisco's doing the academy above me in North Carolina, and has invited y'all to be able to listen to a Cisco engineer this afternoon on a Zoom session, and next week, I believe it is, to listen to a VMware engineer. Both of them tell about what they do in their jobs. That announcement there, I did notice this morning. I put it in later last night. That I noticed I put it in. I duplicated it when I put it in. That when I hit paste, apparently I hit paste twice. So I'm going to try to clean that out in just a little bit. Where only it's not as long there that it's not duplicated. But that is an opportunity for you today, that you can pick up some additional information. And that's things I will put in announcements quite often, or things that change in the class and such. Any other questions for me? And that's the conversations y'all have had out here of the things you've been posting on here is exactly the things we're looking for you to be posting to me in the chat session. So that somebody else looking at this, and our accreditation people actually do look at this and consider engagement real important in online classes, and in in-person classes it's automatically there. Although some teachers don't do much engagement, that they just walk in and lecture and never give you a chance to say anything. But most, you have conversations right there in with it. This to me is working for me just like we were in regular class. Are there any other questions for me today? Because if not, I'm going to let y'all go. But this is how we'll work it each week. In this class, I don't think we'll run the full hour on it, but we could at some points, because I'll talk about some of the stuff just like I did today in more detail, and depends on how y'all's questions run too. So that's how that will work. I will also tell you this, that there is a couple of times that we will probably have to reschedule these, but I'm thinking it may only be one time. In later part of June, I am actually, that week that we have holiday in, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida for training on Python using GUI, working with it all week. And I don't get the holiday that day because I'll be in class all day that Monday and drive down there that Sunday for training, and down there about that for the whole week. With the group I'm getting that from, they actually basically pay for my whole trip down there and the training, so it doesn't cost me or the school basically anything other than my supper meals. And then I am going to be gone to a Kiwanis convention in about 2 weeks, but I'll leave Tuesday afternoon, so that won't impact these that week. And then in July, well, tail end of June, 1st of July, I work with a national BB gun match for kids that Daisy Manufacturing, Daisy Outdoor Products sponsors. A lot of local places. It's done by 4-H and leads to it. And I do their website and I take lots of pictures at it, and they pay for me to go out there and cover me on it for the week it occurs in, which is the week before July the 4th. We actually finish up on that Sunday, July the 3rd, and I'll drive back on the 4th. But I'll go down there, I think, on that Tuesday, which I'll may have to reschedule these. I have to look and see exactly which day I'll leave on to go there. I don't know if it's Tuesday or Wednesday. If it's Tuesday, I'll have to reschedule. That is an 11-hour drive. And then the last week, so that won't impact this, I'll actually be in Frisco, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas, with training from the same organization that I'll go to Jacksonville, Florida for. And there I'll learn better how to use the Arduinos and the Raspberry Pis to teach with in classrooms. And I'll be taking a week worth of training there. And they're paying for essentially everything for me to go. Have to be there on Sunday for a meeting Sunday afternoon. And then I have class sessions all day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Friday we'll let out by about noon. Then I'll fly back that evening to Atlanta and come back home. So it'll be a busy summer for me that I'll be learning stuff. I am also taking an A+ Train the Trainer course from CompTIA currently. I just finished the Core 1 material, which is what you're learning this semester. So I have just been updated on the new A+ exam, which I was going to mention at the beginning. When you go to take the A+ exam, currently, there's 2 versions of it out there. You're actually learning the old version in here, but that you can pass the new version too if you know the stuff for the old version. There's not a lot of changes to it. But here's the thing you'll have to be careful of. The old version goes away October the 22nd. If you pass one of the 2 core exams, and then you take the other core exam on the other version of the test, it don't count. You have to pass both of them from the same version of the test. So in y'all's case, my recommendation to you will be that you take the new version, which is 1100, if I remember right, and the old version was 1000. I've got either I got a note out there or I'm going to add a note out there. I think I'm going to add a note out there in your course about that on the A+. So I would encourage on that. All right, I am going to go ahead and let y'all go. So I'm going to stop the recording now.